Welcome to Talking Comfort Live, a show that reminds us just how cool HVAC can be by discussing today's hot topics in home comfort, from learning to laughing and sharing personal experiences to challenging the leading industry narratives. Our show goes deep inside the world of mini splits, heat pumps, and the inverter technology that brings efficient comfort to our products. And you can help us in our quest to make HVAC cool. We're looking for you to be a part of the show. If you have a question, whether it centers around application, installation, preventative maintenance, a future technology, or anything we share on the show, send it our way. We might take it live. Now grab a bucket and take a break. It's time for Talking Comfort Live.
Good afternoon and welcome to our third episode of Talking Comfort Live this year. We're back from the AHR 2025 event in Orlando. It was great meeting some of you who tune in, and we appreciate everyone who came by the Gree booth. We also want to thank everyone who came to Talking Comfort Live in person, because we did that live, I guess. I know Greg got heated, but he was still cool in his shades. So he chose to wear sunglasses during the entire episode. I'm James McIntyre, the commercial business leader. Let's go down the line and have everyone introduce themselves. First, we'll start with Justin Salisbury.
Hello, I'm Justin Salisbury, Senior Director of Product.
And Greg Bruntz.
Yes, I'm Greg Bruntz. I'm National Technical Support for Commercial Product.
Jesus Fraga.
Hey everyone, Jesus Fraga, Commercial Inside Sales.
And last but not least, special guest, Vanessa Steckler.
Hi guys, Vanessa Steckler, National Sales Director.
It's great. So why do we do Talking Comfort? We have been in your chair or on your roof or under a house or whatever you want to say. We've been there. So we had a chance to tell our story, and you have an opportunity to tell yours as well. We like to share stories and talk about our experiences and the challenges and sometimes even the fun parts of this job. I think that we bring a lot of value to you guys, and you guys bring a lot of value to us. So we want to hear from you. We don't need your whole story, but it's tough to do job-specific questions or like job-specific troubleshooting on the show. But we can, if you use the question mark icon to the right of the screen during this episode, you can leave a question or a comment, and we'll get to those before the episode is out. Today, we'll give Jesus some airtime to tell us about the GMV line and why it might just be the reason he's a member of our team today. Next, we'll have a new Versus video that covers the differences between horizontal and vertical discharge units. And then we'll also pull out the Misnometer tool to go over some misinformation about mini split and heat pump maintenance. It's always either something that you do all the time or something you don't do at all. But then it's my turn to get fired up on stay heated or chill out, so stay tuned. Finally, we did have a comment I'd really like to get to on one of our YouTube videos, so we will bring that up and discuss it. Again, we have you have questions, we have opinions, so you can submit at any time by clicking on the question mark icon to the right of the screen. So let's go ahead and start talking comfort. Let's see let's have Jesus get us started. Go ahead and roll that clip.
Jesus Fraga here. We're at AHR 2025 here in Orlando, Florida. I was at the AHR Expo last year in Chicago as a contractor, dropped by the Gree booth. I was really blown away by the products. I'd already previously installed the systems in the field while I was a contractor. Fast forward 1 year later, and here I am wearing the Gree shirt. So this is GMV product lines. One of the main things that we have for GMV line is just the flexibility. For example, the air handler here, everyone's used to seeing this air handler typically in an attic or a closet install type. But let's say, for instance, you don't have space in your attic, or you're raising up your ceilings and you want to do a vaulted ceiling. We have an option for you too with the wall-mounted indoor unit. You may ask, all right, well, let's say you do have space, but you have a gas furnace. We have an answer for you also. This is where our dual fuel A coil comes in handy, where you can keep that furnace or replace the furnace and just tie an A coil to it. And you have your heating and cooling that way and still keep your furnace. That's what we have. Jesus Fraga again here at the AHR Expo. I want to thank all our customers and friendly faces, familiar faces that came by the booth that shared a common interest, and I agree, we're by your side.
think welcome back. I think that was a great video. I think Jesus did a really great job being put on the spot like that. Uh, but do you have anything else you'd like to add to that video, Jesus? Anything, any feedback?
Yes, for sure. I've had some time to kind of think about, since the AHR Expo, but like the indoor units, not only are they, set up for, residential style, applications. Those things can be tied back. Those are literally the same units that will be used, on the commercial side. So our GMV6 commercial outdoor unit, whether you have an Ultra, whether you have a heat recovery unit, you're looking at the same units. So I did want to mention that it's not only the residential style air handlers that we are seeing there. Those are pretty much the commercial indoor units. Same thing. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
right. And the all the troubleshooting information that you have available in those types of systems too. It's something I can't stress enough. You've got information available on those that you don't have on most other products. Um,
So I
that's
thought it
great.
was interesting that Jesus only brought up the units that he's actually putting in his house.
Yeah. Um, you're right. I mean, yeah, you got a vaulted ceiling. I mean, I don't have a vaulted ceiling. I guess I don't have the money to have one of those, but I know that Greg does, and I'm not sure about Jesus, but I mean, I've got wall mounts in my living room and kitchen, and Vanessa Steckler has a wall mount in her office. Jesus has got wall mounts in his place too, right?
Yep, I got a wall mount and a 1-ton air handler, and have the dual fuel coil also. Still haven't put it in, but yeah, it's here. Eventually it will
Right.
be.
Yeah, so it's working great, right?
Yep, yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
no complaints.
Not really a moving part if it's not moving, right?
Exactly.
So we
But,
we did have a question come in, which is appropriate with the conversation we're talking about right now. Arif, I think I said that right. I apologize if I didn't say it right. With Gun and Puglow, he said, "Can you talk a little bit about the AHU kit?" And I think that's a good topic in what we're talking about right now, because the AHU kit is used to be able to take a third-party air handler and be able to take the metering device out, use the AHU kit, which is going to now allow EEV operation to that coil, and then you got to put the thermistors and stuff on it. So basically, you're turning a third-party air handler into a communicating air handler to be able to work with the GMV product. So we do have the ability to use other brand of air handlers as well, if that's what you choose to do by using the AHU kit.
right, yeah, as small as 1 ton all the way up to a 30-ton AHU kit. So if you had a custom air handling application and you wanted to be able to get some efficiency out of it, yeah, it's just an EV and a indoor board and some sensors, and you can hook that up and tie it to our any of our GMV line, whether that be MultiPRO or the 3-phase commercial. So it
And the
definitely
big key,
gives a lot of
and
flexibility.
the big key to that is the fact that you're putting inlet and outlet temperature sensors, or return air and supply air sensors. So now you're actually making that thing, you're giving data back to the outdoor machine, which turns that indoor air handler into a much more efficient air handler by being able to give that data back to the outdoor unit to be able to work with that information.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've had it in everything from from grow houses to schools to quite large applications all the way. I know there was one right now that's sitting in the upper Midwest that's been on a third party. I'll just say third party. I'm not gonna say what brand, but on an air handler with an AHU kit strapped to the side of it and piped in, and it's been working like a champ for years at this point. So yeah, you can take whatever you'd want, your favorite, whatever your favorite unit might be, or something with a lot of CFM or tons of filtration, that kind of thing. But for the DX side of it, you can get a really high efficiency inverter driven system out of that third party coil.
So James, how long have you had a GMV on your house? That's kind of a good thing to talk about.
Oh yeah, so let's see, 7.5 years. It'd be pretty close to 8. It'd be 8, this year. It's time, I gotta get one of the new ones in. But yeah, I've had one. I've no complaints. I mean, I guess I could ask my wife if she's had complaints about it, but now, having it, I've gotten to learn a lot about it. And I know that you guys have seen that as well on your end, having it in your homes. Um, It works like a champ. I mean, anytime somebody says like an inverter driven system, like, we talk about dehumidification. Um, when it's wet and mild here, I throw it in dry mode, so it's minimally cooling, but it's still removing humidity. I'll have, 50% humidity in my house. It would be like, 100% outside, that kind of thing. I did not have that out of the previous system, because you just don't. You're just not going to have that with a regular system. And, but no,
Well, I
it's
think some
great.
key factors to keep in mind there, though, is you need to have the fan on auto so that it's looking at the inlet and outlet temperature. So it sets that blower speed. So we run that coil colder. So we do get better dehumidification. And then also, you need to keep in mind that, even though it's inverter driven, even though you have variable speed operation, doesn't mean oversizing units on the indoor is going to help you at all. You're going to have humidity problems if you're putting too large of a BTU per room units. So, because I've been seeing some comments on social media that inverter driven units don't dehumidify well, which I kind of already know. I can tell you what the problem is there. They're oversized for the space. The indoor units are oversized for the space, and that's why they're having the humidity issues. If you size them right, you're not going to have humidity issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have less of them than out of a traditional system. I mean, that's a safety net there for you, I guess. But trying to take it to its absolute extreme and just oversizing the crap out of all the units is it's a terrible idea, no matter what system you're using.
Yep. Got some problems there.
Not to mention you end up with noise problems and stuff like that. There's other issues you're going to have as well.
Yeah,
So-
when it's not going to be nearly as efficient as it should be.
So it just falls back to best practices again, right?
Yep, as always. I mean, like for some of these units, you can go down to 15%, like the compressor itself can go down to 15% capacity. But oversizing it, that 15% capacity ends up being a greater share of what your total required capacity is, right?
Right.
But if you took one that was less capable, you're going to have more problems. If you took one that's even less capable, like a traditional on and off style system, I mean, everybody's experienced that. I mean, people grow mold on their walls and all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, they definitely do humidify better than pretty much anything else out there. But anything else to add, anybody? Hey, Vanessa, what do you have in your office over there? Is that a sapphire that you have?
It is. Yes. And I love it. It's not the one behind me. It's actually in front of me, but they look the same. So,
right.
Yeah.
So sapphire is a really nice unit. I don't have a sapphire. Just like to point that out. I don't know how Vanessa got one, but I don't have one of those.
I wish I could say I got a sample, but
Oh yeah, okay. So when you pay for it, that's what happens.
Yeah. No, it's been great. I've had it, I think, 5 years already. I've had no issues with it. So, and obviously I'm in my office quite a bit. So, it's nice to have a good working unit in here every day to keep me cool.
Yeah, and you don't have to keep the whole house that way either.
Right.
Yeah, that's always really nice.
Like it a little colder than the rest of the house, especially working all day, getting heated about things and getting fired up. But
oh, come on, we never have any of that here.
Yeah, never get fired
The
up.
big happy family.
Yeah,
that's just the sales world. That's just how it goes,
It certainly is. Well, so we're going to pull out the handy dandy Gree Misnometer now and see what we're getting on that Misnometer. Let's see here. We got mini splits are great because they don't require maintenance.
I would like to meet that person. What? I mean, it's still an air conditioner. There's a whole lot more going on, in the inverter driven systems than just the regular AC, which may, someone may argue, well, I haven't had maintenance done on this system for years. You're telling me I need it every, yearly or 2 times a year? It's just really, y'all should be, we always recommend to obviously maintenance the system as frequently as you can to get it the efficiencies and the cooling capacity that unit is rated for.
Well, I mean, realistically, it's always been recommendation in the industry to get your system serviced twice a year. And typically that was because you were using one source for heating and one source for cooling. Not, getting into the world of heat pumps, as long as the homeowner is doing their own maintenance, as far as keeping filters clean, making sure the outdoor unit is free of debris around the unit and stuff like that. I don't see any reason why, them getting it done at least once a year wouldn't be sufficient.
I
as far
personally
as maintenance go.
clean my filters about once a month, just because I'm kind of a clean freak. But you'd be surprised what it catches just in a month.
Do you put those in the dishwasher?
What did James say? Only on the top rack? You're allowed to do
Nah, that was a joke. Do not put them in a dishwasher. They are, very flexible plastic. So that, you can cause them to warp if you wash them with hot water. All you got to do is wash them with cold water. I like to do it in the sink so I can see how much stuff I get. Maybe that's weird, I don't know. But,
It is.
Hey, there's clear tanks on vacuum cleaners for a reason. Okay, you want to see if you're accomplishing something.
I don't know if this is bad, but sometimes I use like a dryer sheet and just kind of wipe them down before I actually wash it in the sink, just to get some of the excess dust off, and it smells good. So
hey, if it works, it works. Yeah.
Just wouldn't be using any chemicals to clean them. You eat that screen up pretty quick.
Yeah, I think even with the coils and stuff, most likely, because they're coated and all that, we definitely talk against using like coil cleaners, like acid cleaners or caustic solutions and stuff like that to clean those as well. Given the fact that most of what we have has got a lot of surface area on it, that means that the wind speed through it isn't very fast, right? It means that it's not going to collect as much dirt as maybe what a traditional unit might, which actually comes up a lot when we talk about our vertical discharge units versus our horizontal discharge units. So, if I'm capable of varying that blower speed, I'm going to be raising or lowering the amount of dust that I'm filtering, that kind of thing. But yeah, the coils, they get dirty too. We see a lot, in the fall where, nothing's been cleaned all year, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, people are wanting to talk about airflow, or they start tripping out on an air code, or like an H5 or something. And then, it's the first thing we say: have you checked the coil? Well, it ran fine all summer. Probably didn't, but maybe it wasn't noticeable, right?
Right. Yep.
Right.
Well,
because I say that all the time. These machines do a great job of protecting themselves without shutting down. They have to really get in a bad situation before they shut down.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that it worked in the summertime, wasn't working properly, but to the homeowner, they never knew the difference, or to the end user, they never knew the difference. But when we go into heating mode, now we've got to get the heat off of that indoor coil, because it now became your condenser. So now your airflow becomes more critical. Now that dirt's a problem.
Right. Yeah. Well, in cooling mode, you got freeze protection. Heating mode, you don't really. You don't have that option as far as the indoor unit is concerned. And going back to talking about oversizing, it may be that as it gets dirty, if it's already oversized, as it gets dirty, it actually provides a little bit better comfort if it's oversized, because you're providing less capacity to the space. But yeah, those get dirty. Drain lines can get clogged, right? We've seen that. If you've got one of our ducted systems, it can clog and then trip a float switch or whatever. But if you've got a wall mount, it's gravity fed, and it gets clogged, you start getting water dripping out of the front of the unit, something like that. It gets it's pretty noticeable. People notice that pretty quickly.
Well, in the environment wherever the unit is located has a lot to do with it too. People complain that on mini splits they don't have as good as filtration as like whole house system with the media filter and stuff like that. Those are extra filters you're buying anyway. So the environment you live in, the area you live in, whether it's a commercial building, and that environment, the quality of the air, the quality of the cleanliness of the building has a lot to do with how fast these machines get dirty. I live in Tennessee, and I got a lot of trees and woods and stuff around me. I have 2 dogs, so they're tracking stuff in. So I've actually got portable room cleaners that I use, which helps tremendously to keep the dust and the dirt and stuff under control. And I don't see my mini split wall mounts getting very dirty at all.
Right.
I've been in almost 2 years now. Again, like I said, the environment plays a role in that as well. So if you control the environment, you also control the dirt on your system as well. So
Yeah, no doubt.
just something to be thinking about too. You can't always blame the HVAC unit that it didn't clean well enough. Well, the environment plays a role in that as well.
Right. Well, the original purpose for filtration on the air conditioning system was to keep dirt off the coil. That's what it was really for. The effectiveness of what you would have out of the extra filtration or UV light and stuff has a lot to do with like how those runouts are going to be designed. How are you getting the air exchange? If you got a return that sits on the opposite end of the house, are you going to be getting the filtration that you need in that space? There's a lot of conversations around that. But yeah, I agree. I mean, Justin, Jesus, and I all live in Texas, and during the dead heat of the summer when it's real dry, I've noticed that the dirt on my filter looks a lot like the dirt in my yard. Huh. Weird, right? It's awful dusty outside when it gets super dry, like there's a drought going on. I mean, that's where it comes from. Or I've got a wall mount unit in the main bedroom, which adjoins the main bathroom. Go figure, it gets dirty quicker. There's hairspray and spray shampoo and all those other products that I use every day.
Well,
it's
really,
not me.
if you'd water your grass once in a while.
You want me to pay money to water it so it'll grow so that I can go cut it? Sure,
Yeah.
man. That's like a great plan.
That's
Not in
exactly
the
it.
backyard. I'm not doing that in the backyard.
I'm sorry, my wife's retired. I water it and she cuts the grass.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you. I mean, not only that, I think a maintenance schedule is always something I think that preventive maintenance is the way to keep everything running. We'd rather make sure the customer's not going to have a breakdown when they need it the most. It never fails. Somebody calls you on July 4th weekend. You may have given them a price on doing preventive maintenance. Then they call you July 4th. I got guests coming over and all that. It's like, well, I provided you a way to prevent this. I mean, you can't prevent everything, but
Right.
but is the system operating like it properly?
But I guess
That's
I
something
guess
that
what
you
I'm
check.
the other thing I wanted to make mention of is, okay, so we've talked about it and we'll talk about it again. The efficiency loss through ductwork is huge. When you have no ductwork and you're using a wall mount or a cassette and stuff like that, and you don't have ductwork, the efficiency to those units is astronomical. But it's a give and take. So yes, we don't have as good as filters as you would in a forced air system with air cleaners and stuff that you can add to the system to better filtrate. But so you don't have that, but you have a system that can be way more efficient. And okay, so you got to have it cleaned every few years, a deep cleaning, maybe every 4 or 5 years. Again, that depends on the environment. I know I put one in for a friend of mine in a Four Seasons room, and it's been in there for 8 years, and he's just now needing to get somebody out there and do a deep clean to it. And he's kept his filters and stuff like that. But as we all know, the filters don't stop everything. So that system's been in for 8 years. All he's ever had to do is clean the filters and make sure the outdoor unit was clean. That's all he's done in 8 years. And now he has to have somebody come out and do a deep clean to it because the blower wheel has finally built up some dirt and stuff like that. I don't think that is, unreasonable.
Well, I mean, to your point, where's the dirt coming from that's in the supply? Duct.
Right.
Where's it coming from? I mean, after it goes through
No filter stops all the dirt.
Yeah, exactly. After it goes through all those layers and all that, even through the coil itself, you still got it in the supply duct. I mean, many of you probably have some duct cleaning services as well, where you're taking a brush and you're going there sucking a bunch of stuff out. I mean, we can do everything we can to stop it, that kind of thing. But, it's still going to need regular maintenance. And as Jesus said before, we can't stress it enough. It's still an air conditioner, no matter how we're providing that air conditioner,
Right.
You still got to have airflow.
So Art asked another question here. He says, how often do you recommend changing the filters? So it depends on which product we're talking about. I would say on wall mounts, unless that screen or filter is actually torn, there's no reason to replace them. They're washable filters. Now, if you're using disposable filters, it depends on the MERV rating of the filter and how dirty it's getting. I've got a ducted system on mine GMV unit here, and I don't use a high MERV rating filter because it's too restrictive. Clean, it's too restrictive. So I use like a MERV 5, MERV 6, something like that. And I change them up probably about once a month. So again, environment I got 2 Australian Shepherd dogs, long-haired dogs. So I'm changing my filters probably more than other people are, right? Again, back to the environment. If I didn't have 2 long-haired Australian Shepherds, I probably wouldn't have to change them quite as often.
Yeah, well, depending on where you live too, like you might have the return close to the floor. It might be in the ceiling. It could be in the floor, especially for, older homes that maybe have floor furnaces, that kind of thing. Or the size of the return grill. Like if you're on the smallish side, right?
Right.
You're going to have higher velocity going through that. It may be able to catch more of it instead of collecting around in the area where the filter is. It's, on the filter itself. And like I say, I mean, if you look at most of our wall mounts, we're not on the smallish side, on the size of it. If you ever measured that and actually, throw that on the duculator or whatever, you're not talking about a lot of pressure drop already. And then you've also got this mesh filter that you're putting in on top of it, so you've got a lot of volume, just not at a high speed. The same thing that happens on the outdoor units. I mean, I clean my outdoor unit, I don't know, once a year, I hose it out or something. And it doesn't really seem to collect a whole lot of dirt. I don't really get a lot of cottonwood even during cottonwood season. Just it's not moving fast enough for it to really, get on there and stick. You know what I mean?
Well, and I've noticed, in my opinion, the side discharge units, whether it's GMV or a mini split, those coils are not hard to clean. They're not hard to wash off.
No, they're not.
So, all right.
Next would be the blower wheel. I know that gets brought up, from time to time. I've seen a lot of videos, and I've done it myself, is use those kits, that's got the wrap around thing. It's got a little, kind of goes into a funnel where you can drain it into a bucket. People use sprayers to blow those off and all that. You don't have to take the blower wheel out in order to clean the blower wheel.
Right.
You don't have to. It can still be in the same spot that it was in before. Just like if you're cleaning the coil, you can use one of those kits too. A lot of those kits come out, they got plates and stuff that you put behind it and around it and all that to prevent any kind of overspray, that kind of thing. I've used one quite a bit, and works out great. I mean, everything's squeaky clean when I'm done.
Well, then the other countries that don't really use ducted units and have been using mini split technology for years and years and years, they've got companies over there that's what they do. That's all they do is go around and clean wall mounts. Right?
Yeah, I was actually asking our counterparts in Asia about that, and they said that they'll drive around with a scooter and a backpack sprayer, and they go do an entire building full of mini splits in a day. They've got like a subscription service that just comes out once a month or whatever and sprays them out, cleans them out, that kind of thing. It's just kind of funny how everybody addresses the same problem. I mean, everybody's going to have the same issue, right? So it's just funny how different different folks handle it.
Every country's got dirt.
Yeah. Right. So now I'd like to remind you, go ahead and submit any thoughts or questions using the question mark icon at the right of the screen. Do we have any questions? Any more questions?
No, that's it for now.
That's it for now. Okay. So now let's have Vanessa give us a crash course on horizontal versus vertical discharge units.
Hi again, Vanessa Steckler with Gree. When it comes to choosing the right HVAC system for a home, air discharge plays a big role in efficiency, noise, and placement. Today, we're breaking down the differences between horizontal discharge and vertical discharge to help you decide which is right for your installation. First up, size and placement. Traditional vertical discharge systems need more clearance, meaning they have to be positioned further from walls, fences, and tight spaces. But horizontal discharge units, they have a smaller footprint, letting you place them closer to obstacles. Perfect for urban homes, condos, or yards with limited space. Next, let's talk about noise. Vertical discharge systems push air upward with force, often creating more noise. Horizontal discharge units operate as low as 50 decibels. That's quieter than a normal conversation, making them a great option near bedrooms, patios, or other noise-sensitive areas. We all want solutions that provide comfort inside of our home, but that doesn't mean we can ignore what things look like on the outside. Vertical discharge systems are bulkier and are more likely to grab attention, while horizontal discharge units blend into landscaping and can even be mounted on walls. So if you're looking for a sleek, low-profile option, horizontal discharge might give you the best look. Now let's talk about efficiency. All Gree systems are designed to perform using variable speed inverter technology. However, our horizontal discharge units offer even more consistent airflow distribution to reduce energy consumption. Plus, servicing is easier. Most components can be accessed from the front without needing extra space around the unit. Snow, sand, leaves. Do I even need to go further? If you're installing in an area where debris is an issue, horizontal discharge units have a major advantage. Since they don't pull air from the bottom, they're less likely to get clogged up with snow or dirt, keeping performance steady all year long. So which one wins? Well, if you need a compact, quiet, and efficient system that blends in with the home, horizontal discharge might be the way to go. But if you're dealing with a location where space and airflow isn't a concern, a vertical discharge system can still get the job done. Either way, GREEComfort has the perfect solution for your home. Got questions? Drop them in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more HVAC content. Remember, with Gree, we're by your side.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. You guys got anything to add to that?
I think she covered it. That was pretty good.
Yeah, great job.
So glad they edit out all the bloopers that occur during those videos, but
We do everything in the first take. You know that.
I personally have a horizontal discharge at my house. I have a smaller house by the beach, and I will say it is incredibly quiet. I even have my neighbor right next door. She's like, "How come I can't hear your air conditioner?" So, I'm like, funny thing. So we get to talk about HVAC.
Yeah, she's like, "Where do I get one of those?"
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I know a guy or a girl.
Yeah.
The thing that I can add to all that is from my years of service and how many units that I'd work on doing maintenance and stuff like that. And the top discharge units were always full leaves in the bottom of the unit. So if you literally didn't take it apart and suck the leaves and stuff out of it, then if you washed the thing out, the whole thing sat there in a bucket of water because the drain ports were all plugged up on it. The bottom pans would rust out on them. Half the time they're buried in their landscaping of their mulch. You can't even see the pad anymore. So in most HVAC companies and preventative maintenance, and I'm not calling them out and saying it's a bad thing, but preventative maintenance don't allow, you're not paying them the time that it would take to actually take that all apart and clean that unit on a basic maintenance. That would be an additional charge because it's more time consuming to disassemble the unit and clean it all out. With the horizontal discharge, the top of that unit is capped. You're not going to be having a bunch of leaves down in the bottom of that unit. You're not rusting out base pans or anything like that. Your compressor, all your controls and everything out of the weather, completely enclosed. You're not dealing with the weather affecting pressure transducers, pressure switches, all that kind of stuff. So the longevity of the equipment, in my opinion, is greater with the side discharge units than it is with a vertical discharge, because your vertical discharge units, your low pressure switches, high pressure switches, and all that, even though the controls itself, whether it's a circuit board or whatever, it's not in the weather, but them other controls that are pressure sensing devices and stuff like that are very much in the rain, snow, and whatever else is hitting. So.
Right. Well, on that debris thing that you're talking about, if you're talking about a heat pump, if it can't drain properly during defrost, you know, you're going to get a lot of ice that builds up in the bottom of that pan. And if you get enough of that ice that builds up there, you can cause damage to the outdoor coil. It can
And
crush
we
the
did,
coil, that kind of
and
thing.
and I've dealt with that when I've supported a manufacturer, and that we call that ice damming.
Yeah.
It's because the water couldn't drain away from it, and it would build up, refreeze, and smash the bottom of the coil. But I will say, even with side discharge units, if you're in a cold climate, if you're not elevating those units up off the ground and allowing for that defrost water to run away from it, the same thing can happen with a discharge unit, not because of debris being in the way, just because the unit's not elevated for the water to be able to run away from the unit.
I
And you
gotcha.
build up ice on the outside of the unit, which builds it underneath the unit, which smashes the coil.
Right. So you call that dam icing? Is that what you said?
Ice damming.
Oh, okay. Making a little joke there. All right.
Damn icing. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, really, the person that's units down, I'm sure they're saying it's some damn icing.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of benefits to it. I mean, if you've been in some of the cities, or if you've been on vacation or whatever, you've seen a lot of side discharge outdoor units put in places that you would never be able to put a vertical discharge unit. So that's without question. Do we have any questions that have come in?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay. So now we're going to shift gears a little bit, and as I mentioned before, it's now my turn to stay heated, or to get heated, I should say. You know, I don't get an opportunity to do this too often. So I mean, none of my coworkers have ever heard me stay heated about anything, right? But the panel and you will be able to decide whether or not I should stay heated or chill out. And well, you'll do that. Excuse me, you'll vote on that, and we'll count those votes at the end of this segment. So you just simply hit the question mark icon and select, or put in there stay heated or chill out. So you better say stay heated, because it's me going this time. But I am heated because we get a lot of questions wondering if this unit or that unit could do this or that, when we already have a solution, and that is Gree's MultiPRO systems. So to get more specific, I have a list here. Could we get a variable speed blower? Could we get dry mode? Can we get service information like pressures and temperatures? I would like to have something that performs better in the ultra heat, maybe like 100% heating down to -22, for example. I'd like to have a higher SEER2, a higher HSPF2. I'd like to have more indoor unit options, or I'd like to be able to do multiple zones off of this system. Hey, this system doesn't qualify for rebates. So that's a handful of them right there. So whatever system we're talking about, we have that with MultiPRO. You can get all of those things with MultiPRO. So that's why I get a little bit heated. I will say, just to be frank, a lot of those questions will be surrounding like our FLEXX unitary systems, or our FLEXX Eco even. A lot of those features, some of those have been added or currently being added to those systems, but yeah, we have that already with MultiPRO. So if you want like the service information, or better efficiency ratings, or better heating performance, or multiple indoor unit options, or you name it, you've got that with MultiPRO. Anybody else have anything to add on that?
You forgot zoning.
I forgot zoning. I certainly did. Yeah, we get that question a lot too. Hey, I want to put a zoning damper system on this FLEXX system, right? I mean, can you do it? Is there a way to make it work? That kind of thing. Yeah, there is. But if you did go MultiPRO, you could, if you're doing an upstairs and a downstairs, you can do a ducted unit for upstairs and a ducted unit for downstairs, and now you have true, actual zoning capability that will save the homeowner money. It slows down the compressor operation. It doesn't turn it off and on, that kind of thing, or just provide less capacity to a space. It actually produces less capacity and provides less capacity to the space. Anybody else like to add anything there?
No, I've talked about it too. It's zoning by refrigerant, and it makes sense.
Right. Justin, you got some
Yeah,
more?
I'm gonna have to say chill out on that one. Reason being is, we've got a lot of products that we have in our offering. It's hard to keep up with everything for our customers. We've had a lot of changes in the products with A2L and SEER2. It's hard to be an expert on every little thing. So I think that this is also a great opportunity when you get those questions, James. This is just a national queue up for you to sell your product, right? You get to talk about MultiPRO at that point. I mean, they ask a question, you can just serve it up on a silver platter. So I think, definitely not something to stay heated about.
Yeah, okay. All right. Definitely see the point there. I do get to talk about it more. What about Vanessa? What do you got there?
I say stay heated just because it's kind of fun watching you get all worked up about HVAC. No, honestly, actually, I get a lot of questions too, similar questions, really about all of our products, right? Like, why is Gree the best? Or do you have this? Do you have that? And really, I'd say 99% of the time it's a yes, yes, we have that. Yes, we have this. So it's, for me, I get it. I get it. Stay heated.
I guess maybe it's not heated. Maybe it's just really motivated about it. I don't know. I don't know.
Passionate, maybe passionate's
Yeah.
a good one.
Passionate. There you go. There you go. How about you, Jesus?
Yeah, I think they heated or passionate about it, like you're
There you
saying. I think the MultiPRO, it can do anything you want as far as air conditioning goes.
go. As far as air conditioning goes, yeah, it doesn't cut your lawn. Well, so if you would in the studio, could you add a heart emoji next to heated? Could you do that? Just to just passionate. Yeah, no, you're right. So yep, just go ahead and vote. Stay heated or chill out.
Well, he didn't ask me.
You already gave your input. Okay, fine, Greg.
I,
Should I stay heated or passionate about it?
well, if I went in the other way, if I didn't agree with you, then I'd be like, I'd probably go into HVAC jail or something. Because I talk about the same stuff.
Yeah, right. Would you be a hypocrite at that point?
I'd be a hypocrite. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Be
So as
locked
far
up
as
in
the panel
HVAC
goes,
jail.
I guess yeah. So let's take a look at some of the questions, but hey, be sure to check out the hit the question mark icon and vote stay heated or chill out. Do we have any questions that have come in, Greg?
No, it's just a bunch of stay heated or chill out. We're still working on the tally.
Okay. All right. We'll come back on the tally then. And so switching gears, I'd like to give a shout out to one of the comments that we had on our YouTube channel, GREEComfort. So go check out one of the many videos we have on GREEComfort. On this YouTube video, it's titled "Do Not Try This Yourself. How Flammable Is It? R32 Great for Heating Homes, Bad for Cooking Eggs." So this is the one that Greg did us a favor and tried to set R32 on fire. We don't recommend trying this at home. This was in a lab done by professionals, all that. At Sprockets says R32 is what we should have done 25 plus years ago instead of nonsense R410A and now the new crap blends. Okay. That's at Sprockets on the YouTube video. So you can go look. That's an actual comment. Any opinions on that? Should we have done that a long time ago, and should we be messing around with blends?
I mean, I think I would agree with that. When we switched from 22 and went to 410A, it was to eliminate, the chlorine that R22 had to save the ozone. So we went to 410A, which we all know 410A is a 50-50 blend, right? R32 and I think it was at 125. And they added that other component there to get the flammability down to make it an A1 refrigerant versus an A2. Well, in doing so, they increased the GWP, which we're all concerned about GWP now. and they really made a worse refrigerant. You know, with R32, we're getting better capacities, better efficiencies versus 410A. So we had 10 years of limping along with a worse refrigerant versus just biting the bullet back then and going to R32. And people say, oh, well, you know, the contractors, they weren't ready for the flammable refrigerants back then, yada, yada. Look, we've been using the hydrocarbons or flammable refrigerants in refrigeration for just as long. You know, I sort of say that we weren't ready for the change. It's just, it's bunk, I think.
Yeah. Why are we better at that change now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're better at that change now because why? We're being forced to, like we always are, government regulation. It's funny how when the government regulates something, we get better at engineering, we get better at installation practices or something like that. It's weird. And so, yeah, and there's new blends. You know, any 400 series refrigerant is a blend. Say what you will about them. There's good and bad with all the new blends. You know, some people have concerns about PFAS and other things. There's concerns about, you know, maybe they're not as efficient. Yeah, you can get better GWP than straight R32 with some of those blends, but there's, you know, there's other concerns. There's pros and cons with everything. So, yeah, I think if we just went straight R32 10 years ago versus dancing around the issue, the industry as a whole would have been better off, I think.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point. I guess I never really thought about the fact that we took R32 that has the lower GWP and we added something that had higher global warming potential so that we would reduce the flammability of it. And now we have simply removed the component that has the higher GWP and we're left with what we have. You know, that's actually kind of
backwards.
I mean, hindsight's 2020, I guess. But you know, if you have a blend, I guess there's other things that come along with that blend too, right? You know, you can put your name on that blend, and I guess that's part of that conversation as well. Yeah, it's unfortunately kind of sobering. We could have been doing this for quite a while now. Didn't really think about it that much.
But yeah, now we got to go through another whole transition, which is it's tough. It's tough on manufacturer supply. It's tough on the contractors. Now they're having to buy different tools. It's a lose-lose situation for everybody out there. Now the consumers, we got consumer concerns because they're all worried about whether or not you know this is going to be a problem having that refrigerant in their house, which it's clearly not. But yeah, it just started a whole nother ramification that we got to deal with, and we're still dealing. It's going to take some time because even manufacturing hasn't still caught up with all the equipment now being switched over to the new refrigerants. And it's not just Gree, it's everybody. We're not there yet. So this is going to be a tough summer with transition of equipment and everything for the industry. It really is.
Yeah, well, you know, the good news about the R32 question is that, you know, we rely on a manufacturer right now that's been manufacturing R32 units for over a decade. So that definitely gives us a head start. That means that you're not testing anything this summer for the manufacturer. So I've said this a few times. It actually, you know, with the high efficiency push, with the cold climate heat pump push, and with the, you know, the A2L refrigerant push, it actually puts us in an odd position of being kind of ahead of the game in a lot of those areas. You know, instead of something starting to be developed a couple years ago, and then you're going to be putting it in this summer. You know, we have equipment that's been developed over the past decade or so. So nothing really new on that, you know, in that regard. You're not a test subject, you know, for somebody who just started manufacturing them. But you know, hell, it's been like that for, it's been like that for inverter driven equipment as well. You know, we've been doing inverters for a very long time at this point, and these are still, you know, inverter driven systems are still relatively new for some manufacturers, and you guys get to experience that. Fortunately for us, we don't have to experience that. So, but you know, just come on over. You know, come on over and deal with an equipment manufacturer that's been doing it for a long time. Wow. Okay. I'm learning something new every day. I appreciate it, Justin. You in the last episode, you showed us the HUL, you know, like how the A chart and the, you know, all that stuff. You brought up, you know, the flammability rating of it. You went over the, you know, the flammability of what, you know, like methane or natural gas is, and propane, and all the rest of that. And I mean, it's all about connecting some neurons. Like we have a tendency to compartmentalize thoughts and stuff. So we got, you know, like you're a car guy, you're like over here with car stuff, and you're over here with heating and air stuff. But you know, just having conversations around some of this stuff, you can connect those two worlds. You know, um, yeah, you know,
Cooking eggs.
like cooking eggs. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you
Don't
can
use
connect those two
R32
worlds.
for that. Be eating
Yeah,
raw
R32
eggs.
is R32 is terrible for cooking food. No question about it. But yeah, no, I like the fact that we take a look at these comments and hear some of these people's opinions. But have we had any more questions that came in besides the stay heated?
There's another question to come in, and maybe we can kind of just steer them in the right direction. I saw on the horizontal outdoor unit, the ground mounting brackets. Do you have more information on the brackets? So this was Tim with Campbell Heating Air Conditioning. So I think he's talking, I mean, there's two different things we have, the industry has there. You have wall mount brackets and you have risers that you can use. We don't, you know, being a manufacturer representative, we don't sell any of that. But I think what Rector Seal, who else? James, can you name off some names?
Diversitech also built
Diversitech.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the Bigfoot product line. You've got the Quick Sling product line. It's like the risers that in the video that we had, like at the funeral home. You know how they were elevated off of the ground. Yeah, so there's a handful of different options out there, but we
I
don't
mean,
offer.
you ain't got to. You typically ain't got to get them off the ground a whole lot. The snow is not an issue as much as it's gonna block airflow, but as far as smashing coils and stuff like that, that's not the issue. Ice is the issue. So if you get them at least, you know, 4 inches off the ground or whatever, so that when it goes into defrost, that water can run away from it. You can still have snow built up there as long as we don't have ice damming there. Big difference. Now you'd still want to clear the snow away after a big snowstorm or whatever, so we don't have a unit sitting there half buried in 2 foot of snow, because you're going to restrict your airflow. But the ice is what's going to damage the coil.
Right.
And you don't even have to have snow for that. It's just cold weather.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you know, getting it out of the ground. You know, you're getting it. You're preventing like weeds and stuff like that from growing up into it.
That too.
Homeowner's got a dog, or I don't know, a bunch of dogs or something like that. They have the tendency to they like to tell the entire neighborhood the air conditioner is theirs. You know, and unfortunately, the way they do that is with corrosive chemicals. If you've got dogs, you know. So you know, getting off the ground in that case. I mean, I know that, you know, sitting on a pad's pretty easy, but you know, a lot of these risers and stuff like that are pretty easy too. And honestly, from leveling and all that, it can be easier to level those risers than it is an entire pad. Just throwing it out there. It's a lot easier to deal with than a whole pad. I'm trying to remember the name for those composite rubber ones. You know, is that?
See, I don't know the name of them though.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Those are pretty cool because they use a it's a sliding bracket, kind of like Unistrut,
Right.
sort of. And you use a Unistrut bolt, and they bolt right to them, and they're nice heavy rubber.
Yeah, so I think
mounts.
that's the if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the recycled tire material. You know,
Probably is.
yeah, it's real hardy. I had a sample of one for years. I just can't remember the name. I feel like somebody's probably screaming at the screen right now, you know, what the name is. But if you know what the name is, hit the question mark icon to the right of the screen and tell us what the name of those products are.
Yeah, tell
Um,
us.
but yeah, no, there's a lot of great options out there. I mean, I like those options more than I like 4x4s. Just throwing it out there, you know. I like seeing the equipment on risers and stuff on rooftops versus it sitting directly on the roof.
Risers are they do a lot of unistrut builds and set the units up on unistrut stuff too on commercial buildings, depending on how many units.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it don't look like the unit I just seen down in Curacao where they had them lined up. They had the whole roof covered with solar panels, which there's nothing wrong with solar panels, and they had a bunch of multi-zone mini splits on the roof, but they didn't leave enough room that you could actually work on the unit without basically having to stand on a solar panel.
Do we have to go back to the segment we just did? They don't need maintenance. I mean, we've already talked about that.
No one needs to fix a Gree unit, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were not Gree either. I won't name
okay.
the name.
Well,
but
so they'll be
get a
working on
picture.
those.
I did get a picture of the 410A jug sitting next to it.
Yeah, I actually saw a picture of one the other day, and it was a compressor. They had redone the roof, and they just roofed around the compressor that was sitting on the roof. They put the white membrane around the compressor that was sitting on the roof.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Yeah. Hey, do me a favor. Take the compressor with you when you change it out. But do we have any more questions on the?
Yeah, I'm looking at this one. Here's it. In 1 second. Oh, the system builder app for GMV. Once we go to R32, what is basically what the question is, will we have the R32 updated into the system builder app? And we will.
Yes, that's in the process of being updated.
Yes, and then also obviously we'll have a new program for selection software that you'll be downloading as well if you want to use selection software for the GMV product, which would be the R32 equipment. So,
Right.
Great question though. So
yeah,
that was Craig with Nichols Controls and Supplies. Good question. Thank you.
Yeah, there's much of it's going to be the same. However, there are some limitations on total charge that have to be factored into it as well. There's a limitation on it because A2 are refrigerant, but we've got that data and all that, so it'll be able to automatically build that in. So let's take a look at the count. Can you go ahead and count that for us? Let's see here. On stay heated or chill out. All right, let's see. Yeah.
25 to 6. Who won? Heated?
Yeah, heated. 25 to 6. Yeah, heated. How about that? I mean, I will say that is more chill out than we normally have. So thanks, Justin. Appreciate that.
It's a sales opportunity, man.
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate it. That's good. It looks like you got 6 people to go over on your side there.
We'll chalk that up to constructive criticism.
That'll work. That'll work. Hey, you know what? I figured if I'm going to do a stay heated, why not be the one that
rocks the boat
closest to get the chill out that we have been, if I'm not mistaken. But no, that's great. Well, if we don't have any other questions, let me go ahead and run let's see here. So our next episode of Talking Comfort Live is going to be on March 13th. Nope, I'm sorry. See if next one. We will have an introduction to MultiPRO Commercial Part 1, products installation, and then an introduction to MultiPRO Commercial Part 2, selection software and job layout. Can you tell me when that's going to come up there, Greg?
Yeah, so this is actually going to be Tech 90s on the 13th of March and the 20th of March. So it's going to be a 2-part series. The first part will be an introduction to MultiPRO commercial products and installation, kind of just a rough overview so to get people that have never really done three-phase commercial before, give them a little insight to it.
Mhm.
And then on the 20th, the part 2 is going to be selection software and job layout.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay.
Kind of capping on what we learned about the equipment in part 1. So I think it's well laid out. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. You can learn a lot through it. Even if you don't do commercial, it's still very informational.
Right. Yeah. I mean, many people are going to be getting, access to commercial style equipment that they might not, really think about too often, or may not even have access to it at all. So it's definitely something to take a look. Go ahead and what you should do is register now and get it on your calendar so you can set aside some time. And it'll be very valuable to you.
And then broadcast at 11 a.m. and they'll go about 90 minutes.
All right. You promise? You promise it'll be 90 minutes this time?
I said about 90 minutes.
Okay.
But I think it's useful, good stuff, because I want to share. Jesus and I have been supporting a contractor out in California this last month or so on some equipment that was being installed on obviously a very big home that was actually using three-phase commercial equipment for the house and was doing heat recovery on it. I thought it was very cool. I was like, wow, that'd be a cool job to see. Way out of what I could afford, but it'd still be neat to see it. So anyway, but I guess there is some areas where I didn't know that you could ever really even get three-phase to a residential home. But I guess if you got the bucks, I guess you can get whatever you want, right?
Yeah, you can get three-phase to your house if you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, so I said. But I'm a poor guy, so poor guys don't get those luxuries.
All right, Mr.
We're going to Jesus's house. He's got all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right. Any other questions, or should we just go ahead and close her on out?
Questions are done. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, though.
Yep.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, check out those Tech 90s. If you're in the next episode of Talking Comfort Live will be at the first Wednesday every month. Is that how we do that? First Wednesday every month. That's right. I just show up, and start talking. That's all I do. But yeah, first Wednesday of every month. I want to thank you for attending this Talking Comfort Live and giving us some feedback. It always provides a lot of value to what we do here. And I would like to thank the rest of the panel here, Justin, Vanessa, Greg, and Jesus, for putting up with my crap. But no, it was very good as always. Thank you. And at Gree,
We're by your side.
by your side. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Please like or subscribe to our channel at GREEComfort on YouTube and head over to GREEComfort.com/training for more tips and tricks and all the information you need to help you out in the field. And that was a good show.